What's going on, everybody? It's day 5 of
Hi.
rehearsals. I'm joined by Jess and Dylan. Guys, how are you doing?
Very
Doing
well.
great.
Wonderful.
Thanks, and you?
Let's say hello to some people in the live chat. Hello to Morton V. Nice to see you again. Saying lots of really exciting rehearsals today, as is Sarah O'Halloran saying that Ukraine was the best one. We'll talk about Ukraine because obviously, for people who don't know, Kate, the lead singer, has fallen a bit ill. They did a PCR test. She says that she's fine. So and the rest of the team was tested. So I don't think there should be any concerns about it being, the C word. But she says that she's doing well, and there's plenty of time to recover for the first full show rehearsal on Monday, and then the semifinal on Tuesday. So I don't think we should have too many concerns. But for the rehearsal that we saw today, there was a stand-in in her place, and yeah, it was great, just as it was in the first run through. Jamie Brennan saying Ireland really starting to become dark horses, and thinks that Roxanne is struggling. We'll get to those ones, and of course, Sarah O'Halloran is asking the $1 million question. But first, let's say hello to other people. Hi from Joanne. Haven't managed to see rehearsals today, so looking forward to your reactions. We'll keep you as informed as we can. Hello to Rye Bailey. Hello to Twan. Hello to Francesco. Hello to Leon, and hello to Aris. I don't think we've seen you in here before. Nice to see you. Hello to Michael Forbes. And Twan is saying, every time I'm not in, Jess's internet seems to be working well. Yeah, maybe. Maybe
You're
it's
a bad
you.
omen. My wife.
You're the one to blame. So the $1 million question that Sarah is asking: who has little chance of qualifying? So first, what I'll say is that we've seen improvements across the board, as we would expect with a second rehearsal, because things are being refined, especially when it comes to camera work. That seems to be a lot closer to what it needs to be. And, vocal performances that were maybe a bit weaker the first time around have improved as well. But let's go to you first, Dylan. Tell me, what have you seen from today, and what's giving you hope as far as the rehearsals that you've seen that you like?
Well, I've seen all of the rehearsals today. I just would like to confirm that to me there are some candidates struggling a bit more than others. Indeed, I have the feeling that some are not yet ready for the show, for the semi-final. But they still have time to work on it, and I'm sure that they have great professionals with them. The delegations and the teams are very well committed to the success of their candidates. So I have good hopes that they will improve. I am also very satisfied to see that some of the performances are better than in the first rehearsals. I have some thoughts regarding, for example, Ireland. She did, in my opinion, she was better than during the first rehearsal. And I think that most of them have worked hard to arrive at this stage, and they are doing good, most of them.
Absolutely. The one thing that we have to remember, and is sometimes forgotten in some corners, is that everybody is really, doing the best that they can. There's a lot of effort being put into this, and as much as it is a competition, we should do whatever we can to recognize that hard work. But I certainly agree with you as far as there are certain entries that do seem to be struggling more than others. But we have seen some improvements. Again, I feel like overall we've seen a number of improvements, and I think that Jess, you would agree with me on that.
Oh, 100%. I feel like every country that rehearsed today has made some kind of improvements in some way or another. Maybe some have improved more than others, but nevertheless, I feel like a lot of the performances have made changes, kind of small changes, and have really kind of upped their game this time around, which is obviously wonderful to see.
Definitely. I want to pull this up because it's an interesting comment. Sarah's saying, I would like to invite Goe to my 30th birthday in 3 years' time. So on the first semifinal, I will be turning 30. And a wonderful birthday gift for myself would be Goe making it to the final. It's also Tommy's birthday. And I feel like the best birthday gift that he could have would be Ireland going to the final. So let's, fingers crossed for both of us. Aris is asking us, are we liking the Cyprus rehearsal today? So I didn't see the full cut of the first rehearsal, but I did see all 3 takes today, and I have to say I wasn't let down. And there was a really positive response to this one as well. So I'll go back to you, Jess, since you've seen both the first and second day of rehearsals in full. What are your impressions today?
I was very, very impressed with Cyprus today. I think more so than I was in the first rehearsals. For me, I feel like Elena's vocals were very strong and kind of, I want to say powerful almost. And like, she's got amazing live vocals, and to be doing that whilst all the choreography that she's doing is pretty impressive. And for me, I felt like the song really came alive on stage today in their rehearsal. And I've now made a new prediction for Cyprus. They're now going to be in my top 5 of the grand final. That makes about my millionth song in the top 5. But yeah, I think because when I first heard El Diablo, I kind of thought it would have a similar finish to Tanta in 2019. But after seeing today's rehearsal, I'm thinking it could be more like an Eleni Ferreira situation. So, yes.
It's interesting because I feel like there are a lot of entries I could see having that kind of success. I don't know if I'm quite there at like a top 5 finish, but obviously, if you're talking about your personal top 5, then that's a separate thing. And it would certainly be a well-rounded performance, and it like. Again, it's a competitive entry. This semifinal is becoming more and more impossible to call. But I want to go to you, Dylan. Your thoughts on Cyprus?
I think that she did great, actually. The performance is really well orchestrated. The vocals are really good. She during the first rehearsal today, she had a bit of struggle with the vocals at first, but then she really corrected it, and she did absolutely great. And as stressed Jess, it's really amazing because the staging and the choreography is really, really physical. So it's really good to see that she can combine both. And I'm really confident that she will qualify and that she will do excellent in the final. Definitely top 10 in my opinion, because she has everything to reach that level. And she's one of the only so far that we've seen of the countries rehearsing that is almost ready for the final. She is definitely going to be a queen of the semi-final, and I think that it will be amazing. The rehearsals are already great, so I expect the best from her.
I would say that from what I've seen, this seems to be one of the entries that is furthest along in terms of having everything down pat. And a lot of people seem to have that impression off of the first rehearsal, which, obviously from the point of the production, they are making tweaks, they are talking, discussing things, discussing alternatives. But, it's effective. Morton V saying, I would love to see Lithuania, Ukraine, Romania, and Ireland all go through from the first semifinal. All great choices. Whether or not it will happen, I would agree with all of those myself. Whether or not it will happen, we'll have to see, because it's a stacked semifinal. There's really nothing more to say.
Yes.
Thank you guys for the birthday wishes. I'm not gonna pull them up because I don't want to be hogging the attention. We've got another Dylan in here who's asking, did you see Adam's whistle note? We did. We also saw it the first time around too. The first take from today, I think she was going for it and then felt like she was going to miss it, so she stopped herself. But on every other take, it was great. And obviously, have you guys seen how she's been practicing with this? Like, I recall seeing a video where she was like looking out into like a valley and she was just going for that whistle note. Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
Okay, maybe I should find it again.
Oh.
But yeah, well, let's talk about Israel. Dylan, what are your overall thoughts on Israel?
Oh, I love her song. I love the staging. I think it's very coherent. I don't think that there is a lot to improve. There is room for improvement always, but to me, she's almost there. And I have good hopes that she will qualify as well. She's one of the few artists that is actually carrying a lot of emotion towards the audience, or that's how I feel it at least. And I think she's doing a great job here.
And some of the improvements that I saw there. Well, one big thing to mention is that in the original run through, you know how she has this kind of crown of hair?
Yeah.
The first time she wasn't wearing that until the very end. They place it on her like to crown her the queen or whatever. And it really wasn't working. This time she starts with it. And it just, you know, I think the biggest issue that I had with it was that when they place it on her head, it happens so quickly that it kind of crumples and loses the effect. So it's just there now. We still do see that wardrobe reveal. Jess, your thoughts on that and overall about Israel?
Yeah, so I was I was impressed with Eden's first rehearsal and also her rehearsal today as well. I like the small changes they've made with regards to kind of her costumes and the crown that she has and the costume reveal. It seems like they've maybe kind of made a few tweaks to the camera work to kind of accommodate this. And yeah, her vocals were as good as always. She kind of brings a great energy and stage presence with her as well. And I could see this qualifying, yes.
Michael Forbes saying definitely a massive improvement for Elena. From the short clip, Anna seems to be straining vocally. I didn't get that sense. Did either of you?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, and you know, I'll throw it out there again. It's important to remember that for these rehearsals, the vocals aren't super critical. As I understand, though, because of the circumstances of this year, they are intending to have a take that they can use in the event of you know, an incident. You know, and we're all hoping that none of that happens. But one of the things that we didn't see much the other day was we saw some pyro in some of the takes, and we didn't see it in every take, but you know, the second or third time we did see the pyro going off. And well, I'll get to that a little bit later, but there's one in particular that I want to ask about. Francesco asking us, what do you think about Belgium's chances? Dylan, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know what to say about it, actually. The performance is good, the song is good, vocally it's good, everything seems perfect to me. I'm not sure that it's the best semi-final for them. I think that what's good is that they have made a little improvement from the first rehearsal, and I think they have stepped up their game, and Belgium is offering a song that is quite different from the others. So it's definitely the best to step out and show who you really are. But I have mixed feelings, to be honest. The performance is good, so yeah.
I believe that, Jess, when we saw this in the first rehearsal, because I didn't see that full take in on the first day, but I think that you had said that you were more confident than ever that Belgium was going to qualify. And do you still feel that way, or has anything changed?
Oh yeah, 100%. Today's rehearsal was pretty much just exactly the same as what we saw the first time round. There didn't really seem to be any kind of changes made at all. So I think for me, it was more a case of them just going over and over again and again, kind of the same things to perfect it. But for me, I think it still has just as good a chance to qualify and do quite well in the final than what maybe some people are expecting. And I think, you know, Dylan kind of was saying that it's maybe in the wrong semi-final, but I actually think that the fact that it's not this kind of poppy, dancey, female-led song could maybe work in its favor, perhaps, because it's going to stand out from, you know, countries like Cyprus, Israel, Azerbaijan, for example. So I think this is perfect for them, personally.
Yeah, and also just thinking about what comes before that, it is a lot of high energy songs. So like the song that is the slowest before then would be North Macedonia, but then you have Ireland, which is high energy. You have Cyprus, which is high energy. You have Norway, which is kind of in the middle. And then you have Croatia. So I do feel like because there is so much of that, as I've said before, it is possible that people might get a little bit exhausted and want something that's a little bit more mellow. And I mean, yeah, like I really don't see anything as far as I'm concerned to critique, because it just works. It's what we see here from Hans Pannekuka is what we expect, those kind of like slow-moving shots. I really like how at the end there's a long take where it pulls out and you see Heike's face revealed on the translucent screen. It's very tasteful. And another thing that I think really works about this too is the fact that they've been able to keep it contained despite the size of the LED screen, because I do feel like with some acts that are making full use of it, it's making them feel a bit small, whereas the images that we see are just using the lower part on the screen where the band is. So I think it's doing that effectively from a visual point of view. But I do take your point, Dylan, because it isn't necessarily the vibe that people come to for Eurovision, but that could also be one of the reasons why people help, considering one of the reasons why it helps this act. Sometimes I confuse my words and I don't know if I'm making sense. It could work in his favor. Let's just put it that way. Neil Era is hoping and thinking that Belgium will qualify. Leon is saying, from the first semifinal, who's winning the battle of the bops? Are we considering all the bops or just the ones with the female performers that give a certain portion of the Eurovision crowd something to live for? According to Lucia, it would be Croatia. Who would it be for you, Dylan?
It would be probably Cyprus.
Okay, and Jess?
It's either going to be Cyprus or Croatia. Probably Cyprus, I'd say. Okay.
TBD for me. It's very close. I see Cyprus as being a strong contender, but I mean, if we're considering all the bops here, then currently it would be either Cyprus or Malta. Just great entries overall. And then I saw something here from J Rocket R. In case Ukraine needs to isolate, knock on wood, and since they weren't able to do the second rehearsals, will they use the live on tape? Possibly. That is why they had that as a requirement for this year. But don't forget as well that they do a full run through of the show on Monday. They do it twice, I believe. They do it once in the morning, afternoon, and then once in the evening, which is the jury semifinal. And then they have a matinee show in the morning, the family show, as they call it, on the day of the actual semifinal. And then there's the televised version. So, and there's lots of time to recover. So obviously, we're all hoping that Kate is feeling good enough to perform and that it doesn't affect her ability to do so. We were getting mixed comments about Romania. Rye Bailey saying Romania won't qualify. She hasn't improved. I would disagree.
Me too.
As would Marius, who says Roxanne did good today. She's coming out of her shell and giving it her all. Well, go ahead, Jess. Tell me, what did you think about Romania when compared to what we saw on the first day?
So, I mean, today, I think it was very clear to see that she was still nervous on stage. But we could definitely see a big improvement in terms of kind of her vocals and her stage presence as well. And then we could also see kind of some slight changes made to kind of the choreography, which involves Roxanne kind of dancing less, which allows her to focus more on her vocals. So I think that really, if she just kind of is able to kind of, boost her confidence on the stage and kind of maybe try and shake off some of these nerves, then I do think that we could be seeing Roxanne qualifying to the final, because everything else, in my opinion, is really good. I think she just needs more confidence on the stage.
So I want to emphasize that the thing that I don't agree with is this idea that she hasn't improved, because she has. I think obviously certain people disagree, but I'm not one of those people. She is much more comfortable on stage. She's delivering a better vocal performance. Whether or not it's all the way there is another discussion. And I do feel like in that regard, there does need to be some improvement in order for it to really secure a spot in the final. And even then, because again, the semifinal is so hard to call, it might not even be enough. But also, like, we have to remember that there are so many factors at play here. Is that how you feel, Dylan, or do you feel differently?
I feel a bit different. I think that indeed she has improved, and the changes that were made during her choreography, are good because indeed, as Jess said, she can focus a bit more on her vocals, but still there is a lack of coherence, a lack of confidence, and overall I think that vocally she's not where she could be and where she should be actually to qualify. So there is still a lot of work for her, and I think she is, in my opinion, one of the most endangered candidates of this semi-final. So all hopes are allowed still, but there is a lot to do.
Yeah, and I just want to commend the quality of the song itself, especially like if they're able to communicate the message of it, because I feel like with what we've been going through, like this, obviously a lot of these songs have been inspired by the circumstances around the pandemic, but this one is perhaps one that is a little bit more broad in the sense that a lot of people have been inside themselves and feeling as if they aren't where they should be. But I think good points made across the board. And I do have to say that I think that there are other things that are working against this performance as well, as far as the amount of movement. Not necessarily from a choreography point of view, but more of like blocking, the fact that they have to make that movement to the center stage. Now, remind me, Jess, did they, in the first rehearsal, did they go back to the stage, or did they always end on the middle stage?
I think I seem to remember them going back to the main stage, I think. So, but then maybe they've decided to kind of stay where they are to kind of limit all the movement they're doing, perhaps.
Which I think is a good decision to make, especially because we see that exact blocking from, even though it's a different style of song, we see that exact blocking from Israel, which precedes it, right? And I don't know, maybe that's not really a big factor in the end, but that was the thing that jumped out to me. So let's talk a little bit more in detail about Ireland, because we've got Aoife asking us, and Rye Bailey saying Leslie's vocals improved and great staging. And yeah, like we, on the first day, we only saw one run through of this. So there was a lot of questions about how much was it going to improve, and we were all hopeful, I would say, because this is a really unique concept, and I was given a lot of faith based on what I saw today. All three run-throughs I think were great. Obviously the later ones were a little bit better, but I am really enjoying this entry. What did you think about it, Jess?
Yeah, for me, I think of today's rehearsals, Ireland was probably the one that showed the most improvement compared to the first rehearsal. So in terms of her vocals, I did hear a massive improvement. They kind of sounded a lot stronger on stage. And then in terms of kind of the staging and the choreography, it seemed to flow a lot better today and kind of run a lot more smoothly. And the camera work that was kind of picking all of this up just kind of looked a lot more kind of smooth and kind of sleek. And so I think for me, I would say the biggest kind of thing now for the semi-final would be to maybe just improve the vocals even more, because we know that she's got an amazing voice and we know that she can sing this. And I think if she nails the vocals and the camera work and the choreo kind of stays as it was today, I think we could be seeing Ireland in the final.
And obviously Ireland is a country that within the last few years has struggled more often than they've succeeded to get into the final. So especially people who are fans of the song definitely want to see them have that opportunity. And the fact that they are giving us something that doesn't, like, no one's going to forget about this entry. Yeah. Dylan, your thoughts on Ireland?
I really loved it today because, as Jess said, there are a lot of improvements. Especially vocally talking. I think she's almost there. I'm a bit concerned about the fact that the choreography or the performance in general, it might be a bit too much physical. She seems to be focusing a bit much more on the performance itself than her voices, her voice. And sometimes it confuses me, but overall, I think she has made a great improvement. And I think that she can stand out because she has a very unique choreography, a very unique staging. It's very original, and this could actually work out for her. Yeah, I hope at least.
And I would say with regard to that, it was one of those things that got better with every run, because the first time around there might have been certain cues that were a little too early or a little too late, but like every time I saw it, it just got better and better, and I have a lot of faith in this now. And it seems to be the opinion of people that we have here. Leon saying loved Ireland today, a bit of tweaking here and there, which is the case for everyone, I would say, and especially because this is an entry that requires like perfect execution in order for it to really come together, and they're quite close to it, I would say. Marius saying Ireland and Belgium are my guilty pleasures. Oh, or well, you've written quilty pleasures, which I find kind of funny, but I understand what you're saying. Might not be favorites, but they are different in a good way. I wouldn't call either of those guilty pleasures personally. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
No, me neither. I think they're very good in general, and it's not like I would call some like Italy my guilty pleasure, for example, or
really?
Finland maybe. Yeah.
Okay.
But, no.
I think as I've gotten older, I've kind of shedded this idea of guilty pleasures. It's just like songs that I like and songs that I don't like. And if, let's say, something that I like is maybe not that cool, I just don't really care anymore. You know.
Yeah.
Francesco's saying, well, Tree saying Ireland is in their top 10, and then Francesco is saying, with the competition of the semifinal, I don't think Romania is going to make it. I hope I'm wrong. And you know, it seems like even the people who are concerned about Romania, they still want to see it happen. So you know, let's be optimistic and let's hope for it. Joanne Johnson is saying great news for Ireland. Michael is saying let's hope Ireland goes through. They're a country that really does try, even if they don't always hit the mark. And Marius is saying Italy is just the usual for me.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some others. We haven't talked yet about Lithuania, which, you know, it was one of those performances that we've seen the concept at a national selection already. So maybe there wasn't as many waves about it the first time around. But any developments for you, Jess?
For me, it was pretty much just like a carbon copy of the first rehearsal. I think they have made some very minor tweaks to the camera work here and there, but otherwise it's just as fabulous as it was in the first rehearsal, just as fun, just as colourful, and it's still just as much a qualifier in my mind.
I don't think I've asked Dylan your thoughts about Lithuania in general, because I know that like last year they were one of the favorites, and people were expecting them to, or hoping that they would come back with something. How am I like? Oop, I'm gonna fix this in the middle in a while. But tell me your thoughts on Lithuania overall.
Overall, I wasn't a fan of Lithuania before in the national selection. To be honest, I had other. I thought that they could do something a bit better, but right now what I see is that they are fully prepared for the final, for the semi-final first, of course, but for the final even, because everything seems to be just perfect. They are where they need to be. The choreography, the vocals are just perfect for me. I really had the feeling that I was just listening or watching to the video clip, you know, and the studio version of the song, which is very surprising. And I now think that Lithuania might be a bit underrated, and that it will do much better than the people are expecting it to do.
I'm going to show you guys the culprit for why my light was failing, okay? There she is.
Oh dear. Naughty dog.
What are your thoughts on Lithuania? Nothing? Okay.
I'll take that as a good sign.
That's okay, because we're fans. Yeah, she's got no complaints. Let's put it that way.
But I think that Lithuania could actually do her best result in the contest with this song.
I think so too.
Yeah. So let's have a little bit of a refresher. Their best place is 6th.
Mm-hmm.
6th place.
And that was We Are the Winners.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. All right. I'm caught up on my Eurovision trivia. Morton V saying the RuPaul slay as always. Maria saying Lithuania has a golden spot. They will be the first ESC song to be played after 2 years. Yes. And I've heard in discussions with the producers of Eurovision this year that this is their intention, because people have been craving Eurovision for a while. They wanted to open with a song like this. It does say, however, that they're feeling sad for Slovenia, though, hard to come back after Lithuania. The first time around, I think, Jess, you said that Slovenia's chances had improved, in your opinion.
I think so, yeah. And I still hold this view today. Watching Anna's second rehearsal, you couldn't see kind of many changes being made, but vocally she seemed a lot stronger. She seemed a lot more confident and comfortable on the stage. And I do feel like the song has a lot of impact. It is a very it is a power ballad basically.
Mhm.
And it's in a stark contrast to kind of the fun and quirkiness we get from Lithuania. And then it's, of course, incredibly different to Russian Woman coming straight after. So I feel like it's in a great spot to stand out and make the final.
Yeah, these three songs, it's such an interesting grouping because you've got like the quirky upbeat dance number that feels quite Eurovision to start. Then you've got a power ballad which also feels quite Eurovision, but then you've got something that I would say doesn't feel that Eurovision at all, but for me, like that's a good thing because it's quite alternative. Obviously, there's a comedic element of it with her big oversized dress, and there we are seeing this trend towards talking about social themes like female empowerment and discrimination. So it is a really interesting way to open the show. But before we get to that, Dylan, your thoughts on Slovenia?
At first I wasn't a big fan of Slovenia, actually, to be really honest with you. I think that we already had this discussion in our group. But honestly, her performance is amazing, to be honest. The vocals are just really, really strong, really good. She hits when she needs to hit. And the staging, at first I was a bit confused because I thought that it could distract from her voice. But I have the feeling now that it is actually carrying the voice towards the audience. I just have one concern still, is that I think that she's more focusing about her steps and her place on the stage than delivering actual emotion towards the audience. I think that this is where she could actually be improving in the next rehearsals.
Potentially, yeah. This is another one that I still haven't really seen in detail. I didn't see any camera mixing with it, so I won't divulge too much into my thoughts about it. But it is encouraging to see that people have more confidence about it, especially considering that she's in what is often thought of as the death spot. But we'll have to wait and see. And the consensus, as Marius is pointing out, is that her voice is good. It says that the song is not easy to digest. And I would agree with that personally, but maybe, I don't know, you feel differently about that, Jess?
I mean, to me, it's just a very kind of simple kind of power ballad about kind of hope and love and hallelujah. And, I don't feel like it's a very kind of complicated song to get into or to understand. So I kind of maybe somewhat disagree with that comment.
But I understand it at that level, but I guess the question that I'm asking is why, and maybe people don't really look that deeply into the songs, but the way that I've always felt about this performance is that it's more of an opportunity for her to show off her voice, which is incredible. It really is, but I do feel a bit of a disconnect between what her message is and what she's saying, and maybe I don't know, maybe it's more obvious to some people. Nice to see you, Marco Stanley. So actually, we've been doing 2 lives nowadays. We do one right after the rehearsals have ended, and then we do another one in the evening with Andy, Clara, and Tommy, who are there in Rotterdam, and they're spending this time right now getting interviews and absorbing the show. Tree saying, I think Slovenia will drown between the high energy of Lithuania and Russia, potentially. What else? Nice to see you. Let's talk about Russia then, because one thing that I know that we saw that we didn't see before is the pyro. I don't know how many other changes we saw today. Dylan, anything different that you noticed?
Well, the pyro, but otherwise, no, I think it was quite, I think there is a slight difference about the dress, but I don't remember exactly the first time she rehearsed, so no. Jess, maybe?
Yeah, what did you think?
Yeah, so we did actually see changes to the backing singer/dancers costumes. They've kind of gone away with these kind of tracksuit type outfits they had, and they have these kind of golden bronze sort of satin outfits going on, which surprisingly works very well for the staging. Everything else was kind of very similar. We do see the addition of kind of some English words coming up on the screen as opposed to just Russian.
Mhm.
But aside from that, it was another kind of powerful performance from Manisha, and yeah, the staging is as good as always. No changes made. It's still a short qualifier, in my opinion.
Mhm. I do think that this is an example of performance where the singer carries the performance in such a
Oh, yeah.
unique way with her energy, with her delivery. It is really exciting, and again, like, who would have thought that we would have seen an entry like this from Russia, of all places, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, what I really love is that she's clearly bringing some diversity, musical diversity, to the contest this year, and this
Yes.
is great. And I think that she can take the most out of it for the semifinal, during her semifinal. Yeah.
I agree. Mary is telling us that Russia appeared on the BBC today. There's a small interview with the singer, really impressive. Not the first time that the BBC has talked to them as well, which is interesting. Marco saying vocals will elevate. Oh, I think I pulled up Morton V's. Not a fan of Russia song, but the staging is impressive, and for me is one of my favorites. Now let's go to Marco, who's saying vocals will elevate Anna, so it's fine without the message being received by the audience. And I mean that. Sorry, I keep getting this shift happening. That has been something that's won me over before. Like, sometimes if I'm just so impressed by the vocals, then what they're singing about doesn't really matter.
Yes.
So anything's possible. And once again, this is just a really hard semifinal to call. We haven't said much about Sweden. We haven't had many questions about Sweden. Any developments today, Jess?
No, to put it bluntly. Tuse and his backing singers are performing kind of exactly in the same way, the same kind of lighting, the same outfits, and everything was just kind of the same as what we've already seen. Tuse did seem to be struggling slightly with his vocals again, but then that's understandable given he's just had surgery. So, but for me, I feel like voices kind of translates very well on stage, and the song has a lot of stage presence for me. And I think this will really help to boost his chances going forward.
Potentially. Dylan, your thoughts on Sweden?
Well, I don't want to be mean, but Sweden just didn't convince me, honestly. I think they are not at the best level, and it seems that the Swedish delegation has lost its mojo in a way, because they are not trying to do something different than what they usually do. And it's becoming a bit boring, in my opinion, to be honest. I think that Tuse is a great artist. I like the song, really, but I think that the performance in the national selection was much better. And I am quite concerned as well about the costume, the dress. I don't understand why they are going with this clothing. To me, it's just not fitting in the theme of the choreography in general. There is a lack of coherence, and overall, I'm just disappointed by Sweden right now.
And look, you're not the first person to say this. I mean, I don't want to get into the kind of weird bias there is against Sweden within Eurovision fans, but like in this case, because I'm really of two minds about this, like I am about a lot of things. Because like I do think, again, they have a great performer. Again, they have a great concept. And while I'm not particularly like that warm on the song and its message, I do think that there is an anthemic quality to it that could reach the audience. And especially if we're talking about a performer like Anna Soklic, who, you know, could wow people with her voice. This could work not necessarily in that way, but on the anthemic quality that feels a bit uniting. But I take your point as well, Dylan, because it does seem like what we've seen this time is not changing the game, you know?
Yeah.
And we've seen Sweden change the game before, and try new things, whether it's with the music or the staging, or other aspects. So it is. I'm going to emphasize again that it's weird for me to think of Sweden not qualifying, but again, this is a really competitive semifinal. I would still lean towards a qualification, but maybe if a lot of people are feeling the way that you do, Dylan, that maybe that we could see this be the start of a change, because we know that with the consistent qualifying record that they have, I know they haven't qualified on every occasion, but maybe that might be something that shakes things up, and we'll see some changes. I mean, I do want to emphasize, though, again, like I do think that there are strengths in the visuals, in in elements of the song, but maybe the message and the feeling that they're going for is not being effective. Tree saying it's possible for Sweden to be a shock non-qualifier. I think
I think it could be.
It's definitely possible. It's just hard, again, for me to think about. And J Rocket R is saying the same thing. Oran saying Sweden gets lost in the semifinal, especially between Russia and Australia, and they aren't the best vocally, staging-wise and song-wise. If they do win the jury, I would be skeptical of them. We'll steer clear of that territory, because then it gets into false assumptions and people speaking as if they know something more than they actually know. Cathal Shian is saying it's not as commercial as normal Swedish entries, meaning it may not get the kind of jury score Sweden usually get. Do you guys feel that way?
I mean,
no. Just go ahead.
The song kind of sounds very Swedish and very Melodifestivalen to me, and it does seem quite in tune with previous entries they've sent recently. So I do think that it would still appeal to the juries, this song.
And Dylan?
Yeah, I think the same, actually. I think that for the jury, it won't be an issue, but I'm more concerned about the televotes, to be honest.
But since we've mentioned Australia, let's talk about Australia, because I believe we've seen now for the first time a full take of this. I didn't see it, but just I think you saw it, did you?
So I ended up seeing the YouTube clip.
Okay.
And this time round, we get to see a lot more of Montaigne's performance compared to the first clip we saw. And we can see that they're kind of very clever with their camera work and very kind of clever with graphics coming up on the screen and almost kind of distorting the screen, but in a good way. Montaigne looked and sounded amazing on the stage, which is good to hear, obviously. And I'm now kind of rethinking Australia and thinking that they could actually qualify and do quite well. I feel like the staging kind of suits the song and the style of the song perfectly. So in my opinion, they've nailed it.
Oop, we got some movement going on here. Dylan, how much of Australia were you able to see?
I just saw the video clip and the short snippet from the rehearsal today. I totally agree with Jess. Again, to me, it was just great. I love the staging. I am really surprised, but positively surprised with the Neo effects, and it's very colorful. It's very effective. It's just sometimes I'm a bit concerned because it might be a bit too much, like a bit blurry. But otherwise, it's just great. Vocally, it's good. She's doing great. She has an amazing presence on stage. I love the dancers as well. I think that it's really great, and I was very skeptical about her chances to qualify, but now I am feeling it a bit better.
Yeah, and I think that one of the concerns, especially because she is currently the only competitor who has to use the backup footage. So I think the thinking was that with that as a factor, their entry could possibly look like, less expensive than the rest. But based on what we've seen, it looks great aesthetically, and she sounds great. Well, I mean, I'm repeating pretty much everything that you said, but. I think that this should be considered for the final now, and the one thing that I've always really respected about this entry is the fact that it's so unique. And earlier we were talking about the Battle of the Bops. Let me see if I can let her slide out now, because she wants to. Sai Virginia. Coisa linda. Also, I speak Portuguese to my dog.
She's not a fan of Australia, then.
She's a fan of Australia because I'm a fan of Australia. But we were talking about the Battle of the Bops before, and I think people might have forgotten about this one because it's not the Eurovision formula, but it is a solo female with a great powerful song, something that looks dynamic and unique. It's like Montaigne as an artist is unique in so many ways, and I could spend another hour on this live chat talking all about her. So I really do believe, and I have confidence that they have an opportunity. They have a greater opportunity than people might have thought before. But let's see what you guys are saying. Rye Bailey is a fan, saying Australia's staging looks amazing. Michael Forbes is asking, do you think Australia has an advantage by being able to use their own staging? From their perspective, they would probably not feel that way, but who knows? Any thoughts from you two?
I don't think it really makes a difference, to be honest with you, where they're performing.
Yeah, because I think with the pre-recorded footage, it is likely a scaled down version of the concept that they were going for, but it seems like the impact has been made, and they were still able again to make something that has a unique visual aesthetic. I'm sure all the people who have been concerned about the recurring use of pink, blue, and purple don't have anything to worry about here. Oren, since you're asking about Ireland, we have talked a lot about Ireland, but generally speaking, we're all very confident in it right now. Morton V is mentioning Albina from Croatia. We've also covered that question from Mauricio, so I hope that answers your question. Who else do we? Yeah, okay. So we got Antonio asking us about Croatia, which I don't think we've talked about yet. So Dylan, your thoughts?
To be really honest, I missed the rehearsal, so I don't have much to say about Croatia. Just that during the first rehearsal, at least, I was really positively impressed by the performance and the staging, but I don't know if they have made any changes yet.
I think that they, I didn't see the first time through, but I saw, sorry, on the day of the first rehearsal, but I saw all three of the takes for today. It looked refined. Basically everything that I was told about it, I saw, and I think it was quite effective. But Jess, do you have any other thoughts?
For me, I guess the biggest kind of change was Albina's vocals. I did notice a big improvement this time compared to the first rehearsal, and I think just in general, kind of the staging and choreography kind of looked more kind of like sleek and more kind of finished and polished, if that makes sense. And it just seemed to kind of run a lot more smoothly today, which is obviously good to see. But yeah, pretty much everything else in terms of the staging and everything was pretty much the same, I think. So.
And just kind of going back to this color scheme thing that people have been noticing, I don't actually think it's going to be that big a deal, because how many times do we see blue used as the main color, and then it transitions to orange and gold?
Exactly.
I mean, I think people will notice it, but I don't think it's going to have an impact on the scoring or people forgetting certain entries. But yeah, I don't know. Positive impressions on Croatia, perhaps because of this idea of being, battle of the bops. Maybe, like we just don't really know how that's going to go. And I think that the effort is very clearly being put in, and it's paying off. So they deserve a place in the final, but when there's only 10 spots, somebody's going to miss out, well, and then Marco Stanley asking us, how do you place Croatia among all the female pop and disco entries? So I think for most of you, like, Cyprus is the one who's leading the pack in that regard.
I think for me, yes, with Croatia in a very close second. I feel, maybe it's just more to my own taste, but I feel like Croatia is slightly better than Cyprus. Cyprus is very well rounded, but I feel like in terms of uniqueness, Croatia is doing it a little bit more for me. And I don't know, your thoughts, Dylan?
Well, I think that Croatia is great. It's doing great, but it's not coming in my top three of this battle. I think that someone who is doing great and we haven't talked about yet is Azerbaijan, and it's, in my opinion, still better than Croatia. So it would be Cyprus, Azerbaijan, and Croatia.
All right. Well, let's go there then. Let's talk about Azerbaijan. So I saw the first two run throughs. I didn't see the last one. Jess, did we get pyro in the end?
We didn't, but it's possible they're saving it for the live shows. But you know, we had no pyro. But for me, I think this rehearsal kind of, I mean, I'm not sure whether they've kind of changed anything with the camera angles, but for me, it kind of seemed, the staging seemed more fuller, and it seemed like kind of not quite as empty as it did in the first rehearsal. And I'm not quite sure if there's been changes made to maybe the way they're standing or where they're positioned or the cameras, but I kind of got the impression of it being a lot stronger and kind of more impactful compared to the first time round. So I personally am very happy with this, and I'm still kind of on the fence whether or not their performance will be enough for them to qualify. But I think they have shown that if they just keep making small changes and improvements, then eventually they could get to that point of qualification.
I don't know if you guys can hear that music. Can you?
Nope.
No?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can.
Oh, you can hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your alarm's going off. I think your alarm's going off. I've got my partner in here. We share a small space, but it's all good. I've actually been enjoying the way that I can incorporate my family into these these live streams. But talking about Azerbaijan, I totally agree. As far as everything does seem tighter and less empty than it did the first time around. We did see an announcement that her wardrobe was going to change for the second semifinal. Did it? Or sorry, second rehearsal?
It did, I believe. So in the first rehearsal, her dress had kind of basically the material covered all of her neck, and it kind of looked like she was a bit kind of being strangled almost. But now we see that this sort of material around the neck has gone, and we see more kind of skin and flesh. So I think it's better because she doesn't look so kind of squished together in this area.
And she's more comfortable when she's performing on stage as well.
Yeah, I would say so too. It felt like it felt tighter in that way. The first day we saw great vocals, and there were certain people who had some doubts in her vocals. So I don't think there's really any reason to be concerned there, unless because sometimes people burn out. But we've seen a lot of promise here. The thing is, I do still feel like the song itself, it comes off as flashier than it is like I just, maybe it's just because I don't connect with it, but there is definitely a missing factor here, which is not the greatest criticism that I can offer, but I still have some doubts. I was quite concerned about it on the first day because it felt quite empty and slow. But it's interesting that because Dylan, you feel that this is doing it better than Croatia, whereas I feel the opposite.
Yeah. To me, she's doing actually great. She improved on her staging performances. As Jess said, the wardrobe is different, and it makes the whole performance more fluid. Maybe it's more coherent as well. The vocals have improved, and really, I think that it's just how to say. She's performing and giving more emotions or feelings than Croatia, in my opinion. When I'm listening to Croatia, or based on what I saw, I mean, it doesn't give me the feeling that I want to stand up and dance, but Mata Hari is giving me that feeling, and she is, in my opinion, in a better place than Croatia regarding this. But that's just a personal opinion again, though.
And if I'm thinking correctly, Azerbaijan comes after Romania, right?
Yes.
Yes, maybe.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously I have more concerns about Azerbaijan than you do. So maybe between those two, because we all kind of have our concerns about Romania, but we all see a path for it to the final. So maybe that's going to be one of the areas where we see someone get left behind. We haven't talked much about Norway. And the impressions, because I missed it on the first day, and I was able to catch it today. The impression that I was getting was that it was quite similar to the performance at MGP, which makes sense as far as the setup goes. But I have to say, in terms of visuals, there were certain touches that I really liked. I like the fact that they were using the lights from behind the LEDs. I also noticed today that the details on the side of the stage that are kind of like illuminated. Maybe they're like the fluorescent LEDs, which doesn't make sense, but you know what I mean. The long lights.
Yeah.
When they were going for that lightning effect, we saw those flashing as well, and I thought that was a really nice touch. But yeah, I remember Jesse saying that you had less confidence in it qualifying when you saw it. Do you still feel that way?
Absolutely not. The second rehearsal for me, I'm not quite sure what exactly it was, but it just felt like it had a lot more kind of presence and impact on the stage. Tix's vocals did sound a lot stronger and fuller this time round compared to the first one. And I mean, I've never really been a big fan of this song, but after watching the second rehearsals, it is starting to grow on me just a little bit. And I could actually totally 100% see this qualifying now. I just think it comes across very well on stage, and it's a song that people I think are going to remember. So yeah, so it was a nice surprise, an unexpected surprise for me today.
Dylan, do you feel similarly to Jess?
Yeah, I do. I share her thoughts. The performance is surprisingly interesting. It's well done, really well executed. I just have one slight concern about his vocals, though. I think that there is a little room for improvement. And also, I am wondering if this performance will actually catch the jury's attention or not. I just have mixed feeling about it. I think that for the televotes and the audience will remember this performance because it's something to remember. It's really catchy. But for the jury, I'm really not sure, actually.
Yeah, I think it's really the same discussion that we've been having since this song was first released, which is, that especially having that over the top rock star aesthetic, is that going to turn people off? And because the story that he's telling is very personal, and as I've said before, it's told very effectively in the music video to the point where some people have been brought to tears. That doesn't seem to be having the same effect with this presentation, but it's important to remember as well, he's the only male vocalist in the last half of the semifinal. People aren't going to forget it either because it just looks so unusual, and he's got big angel wings. Another, obviously, I just want to emphasize that we're not trying to have a crystal ball here and say like this person's going to qualify and this person doesn't, but we're trying to discuss things and extrapolate as many ideas as we can, because there are a lot of people who just write off songs and then they're wrong, which is, in my opinion, not the right thing to do. Michael Forbes saying, I wasn't a huge fan of Tix, but after the clip today, I'm converted. I'm with you, Jess. And Sarah O'Halloran wants those Tix wings. So just thinking back, because we're coming close to an hour now, and I believe there's only 2 entries that we haven't discussed yet, which would be North Macedonia. And we talked a little bit about Ukraine, but not fully, right? Have I forgotten one?
I think those are the only 2.
Those are the 2, yeah.
Okay, so let's go to North Macedonia. Jess, your thoughts?
I mean, we don't really see any changes this time round compared to the first time round. I guess the only change you could kind of say was that he just appears to be more confident and more enjoying the stage compared to the first time round. Vocally, he's very good. The performance, I do think it is kind of quite stunning in the sense that you have all of these kind of gold and yellow colors coming through, and then his kind of silver bright t-shirt thingy that he's got going on, which I think kind of creates something that has impact and that's eye-catching. But as for the song itself, I feel like I think he's better than the song. So yeah, to kind of round things up, I think it was a good rehearsal. I think it's a good staging, but I'm just not loving the song.
Fair enough. Yeah. This has been an entry that I have been concerned about for a while, not necessarily because of this musical qualities, but more so just because of this being a competition and how it blends in with the rest of the songs, especially in this semifinal that is so so stacked. So I mean, based on what we've seen from the first day, I would say that things are getting better. There's never been any doubts in his vocal abilities because he's definitely one of the best. I would say that we have Anna and Vasil in here, and they could be the best vocalists that we have in the competition. And obviously there are others that are up there with them, but they jump to my mind in particular. Dylan, your thoughts on North Macedonia?
Yeah, I really love Vasil's songs. I am one of those people who likes the song. I think that the staging, the performance, and the vocals makes the whole performance really majestic. Vasil is really killing it. Now, I am not naive, and I think that indeed the song is not blending in this semi-final in the contest as well as it could for, let's say, other edition of the contest. I'm a bit concerned about his chance of qualification, but I think that he's doing his best, really. Of course, there is a lot of work as for any other artist in this competition, but he has done an amazing job, and I really love the presence he has on stage. To me, it's a very good presentation. Now, will it be enough to qualify? I'm not sure, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Morton V saying that he really likes the way that North Macedonia's song builds in the first half. I like the progression of the piano and strings. And, I do want to mention, too, that those classical elements, that could definitely appeal to a number of jury members, depending on what their musical background is. Because I have shown this to some of my friends that are more in that world, and they love it. They're totally living for it. Rye Bailey saying it's not his cup of tea. Michael Forbes says he's not a fan of the silver t-shirt thing. Too much of a gimmick that isn't working. I think the song is middle of the road and will struggle to have an impact. And Marco's saying Vasil is great, but the West End atmosphere probably doesn't work. It didn't help Lucy Jones. Maybe. I don't know. It works for you, Dylan, right?
Yeah, it works for me. So we'll see.
Yeah. And, a lot of people have mentioned the Disney vibe that it gives off. So I don't know. I guess it's because like the entry that I think about most, and I've seen this comparison made a lot, is Iceland 2018, where like really there was nothing wrong with the performance. It was just the vibe that it gave off, and I think as well it was this hard time blending in with the rest of them.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, but. Again, I'm going to emphasize that Vasil is amazing, and I've actually seen him perform live, and he is such an incredible spirit. You can kind of feel the kind of person and his emotions just through his voice. You don't even need to be looking at him, and you're just there with him. So now finally, let's get to Ukraine. Which, as we mentioned, they were rehearsing with a stand-in today because Kate has fallen ill. They've taken a PCR test, and there isn't any reason to believe that this has anything to do with the pandemic. But they rehearsed with a stand-in. The rest of the band was there, and they have also been tested. They will be back on stage on Monday, so there's lots of time for Kate to improve and be ready to perform. But Jess, tell me about what you thought about Ukraine, given the fact that they are with a stand-in today.
And the stand-in was absolutely fantastic for anyone wondering. She sang the song, she did it justice really, but the staging is just as amazing as it was in the first semi-final. We've just got this amazing kind of platform with lots of white colors and trees and plants and everything just comes together so nicely. And it was in today's rehearsal that I actually started to think of Ukraine as contenders to win the whole contest, which I know is a big, thing to be predicting so early on. But it was just kind of giving me those kind of vibes. It just seemed to be like even more kind of powerful and crazy and energetic compared to the first time round. And if they can really kind of pump up kind of the energy on stage for the live show, then I do think this is one to watch.
It's so unthinkable for me it's unthinkable to see this as a winner because of the fact that like this is a genre that I so love, and as I've said in many other lives, I'm such a big fan of Goe and how they have this unique approach to incorporating folklore and Ukrainian culture into something that is really a a modern sound, and they have such a variety in their music, and we have not seen an entry like this in Eurovision, period. So maybe you're right, and maybe after getting my birthday gift of getting them in the final, I'll get something else there. But Dylan, your thoughts on Ukraine?
I really love them. They are doing amazingly in this contest so far. Their rehearsals are almost close to perfection, in my opinion. The song is one of my favorites, and I was really concerned about their vocal performances at first, because last year I was a big fan of their entry, but I was really disappointed by the few live versions of the songs. So I was concerned this year, but I think that they have managed to do something absolutely amazing, and it is very coherent with the staging and the stage performance in general. And I think this is bringing a lot of diversity and uniqueness into the contest. And as I said, we have never seen this before. So this year, it is definitely one of the potential top 10. Now, is it a potential winner? I don't know. I don't want to take any bet right now.
Yeah.
But I wish them the best, really, because they are doing great. And I loved the performance today, even though it's hard to compare with the first one since Kate wasn't able to join. But I really hope she will be doing okay in the next days and be back on Monday. Yeah,
definitely. Hugs to Kate, and hugs to Montaigne as well, because we know it hasn't been easy for her. At Euroboy 4, they did do a rehearsal. I don't know, maybe they didn't release a clip because they had to use a stand-in. But yes, they were using a stand-in. And to answer Nicola's question, did the stand-in sing with white voice as well? No, right?
I mean, it wasn't kind of 100% white voice, but I think she gave it her best shot anyway.
Yeah, it's if it was white voice, it was different from Kate's white voice, and it was different from like Tulia's white voice as well. I would have to say. Yes, so we've got people agreeing. Sergio saying, I like the staging, but the voice is a little bit annoying. Speaking about Ukraine, and this is one of those things that concerns me, because especially leading up to this, we didn't see everybody warming up to this song. It's perhaps another Marmite song, but whether or not the general audience is going to feel about that is yet to be seen. I become a little bit more concerned about the jury appreciation of this, but I hope I'm wrong, because I think there's lots of musical merit here that should be respected. I'm seeing a Wi-Fi signal. Am I dropping out?
You look okay now.
No, you look okay.
I might. Okay. All right.
Well,
anyway,
maybe we should end before you disappear.
Exactly where I was going on this. But thank you guys so much for joining us today, talking about day 5 of rehearsals. So tomorrow we begin things off with Malta. Malta was the only performance from semifinal 1 that we didn't see today. It's kind of funny how they organized the schedule that way. But we also see the first rehearsals for the Big 5 and the Netherlands tomorrow. So lots of eyes on that. Dylan, we're going to be seeing France there. How do you feel about that?
I feel confident, to be honest, even though I think that she's a bit overrated at the moment, but I think that she will be delivering something really amazing, and I can't wait to see it tomorrow. Actually, I know that she might have arrived in Rotterdam right now. The French delegation took the roads this morning. Okay. So we shall see.
I guess it would make sense to drive to the Netherlands from France. Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope to see you tomorrow. We're also going to be chatting again later tonight with Clara, Tommy, and Andy. Again, they're getting as many interviews as we can while the artists are there, so we'd love for you to subscribe to Eurovoxx so you can check those out, and join us for our other lives, because we'd love for you to be involved in this conversation and talk about winners and stuff. I know today we've again have said like, oh yeah, this song will qualify for sure. It must be emphasized that this semifinal is so impossible to call.
Yeah.
There's lots of people that deserve that place in the final, but there are only 10 spots. I don't know. I don't believe in writing entries off for really any reason, but we have our concerns, and we have our the songs that we have faith in, and then we're going to have everything shaken up when we see it actually happen. But anyway, once again, thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time. Take care.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.